Hey, this is Corey Barnes.
And this is Lisa Caperton, and you're listening to Her Turn to Talk.
Have you nice?
Just because I have it down, you can't see, but there's actually so much gray. It's ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, probably thousands. Not even, we're out of the hundreds. I think it's in the
Or are you just kind of riding it out?
I'm just kind of riding it out for now. I mean, I want to dye it, but I also need it cut really bad. And I have so much hair. It's like real long, and it's real, like there's just a lot of it. And I don't know. I just rather have it cut so it's like less work to do. You know what I mean? And it's not like anybody's really seeing me right now, so who cares? Have I told you about my new bird friends?
No.
Yep. Oh, Cheez-Its. He would live off of Cheez-Its if he could.
I have to have a couple.
He only eats reduced fat Cheez-Its because he says they taste different.
I was introduced to extra toasty.
I don't know if they would like them, because that's their problem with the regular Cheez-Its, is my kids say that the regular Cheez-Its taste burnt. And so they eat the reduced fat ones. I don't know. But I have some new birds. You might have seen, I've posted pictures and video of these birds. They're not my birds, but they're two hawks that are around the corner. And every single day, me and Ryan take walks and we look for them. And Corey, this is how I realized the other day, yesterday, I guess, I'm losing my mind. I need something else to do. So we were walking, we're on our walk, and we have named these two hawks. And I let Ryan name one, and he named it George, and I named the other Moira for my Schitt's Creek people out there. Mm-hmm. I wanted him to change the other bird's name to Johnny, but he liked George. Anyways, so they're always out there every day, and they have like these certain areas that we always find them in, and we have noticed. So they have their nest in one, and then they have this other tree across the street that they hang out in, and then they have a very specific tree down the way and very specific branches that's where they eat. And it is like carnage. It is like full of guts that they have dropped and feathers and fur, and we always catch them eating. And me and Ryan were walking, and he was like talking about like their home, and I was like, well, everything's their home. And then I was like, well, like this tree is their dining room because this is where they eat. And then Ryan's like, yeah, and that tree is their TV room because that's where they hang out and watch us. And then this room where the tree with their nest is their bedroom. I'm like, oh my God, I have so much time on my hands.
Well, and if I remember, you got a bird phobia.
I do have a bird phobia, but I don't know why. Like, these birds, they just stare at us. I think that they know, like, I'm not worried about them like doing anything to us.
But they just stare at you.
They do, because we all like one where he eats, or where they eat, the branch is pretty low, and it'll just stop, and like it's just like eating, like it catches, like we've seen it eating mice and other small birds, and it's like really eating, and it just drops everything, and it'll stop, and it'll just like stare at us while we stare at it eating. I don't know, but I'm just like, oh my gosh. And then we have a raccoon that's been visiting our front porch, because our camera's been catching it every night. And then I noticed in my trash, when it was trash day, I would take it out, and like some of the trash was pulled out, and then like you could see the garbage bag was ripped open. And I've just been it's like National Geographic at my house. I have like all these wild animals. We have a squirrel that's in our backyard constantly, and Ryan like we have a bird feeder out in the backyard, so the squirrel will hang upside down on the tree and like attach itself to the bird feeder so it can just like get the seeds. But I'm like, I have way too much time in my hands that this is my life, Corey, is I just like, I have to check on these birds, and we have to watch them, and like, I don't know, it's insane. What have you been doing?
Sounds lovely. It sounds like normal and cool. What have I been doing? I wake up, I make coffee
Hmm.
with the special. I'm using that Jura, that the new espresso maker. Oh God, it's amazing. Then I drink
Have
my
you seen this
coffee.
foamed coffee thing that people
What?
are doing? Have you seen this foamed coffee thing that people are doing now?
Yeah, that looks gross.
I haven't tried it. It's made with instant coffee. Yeah, I feel you. I'm like, how can that be good?
Yeah, I don't want a frappuccino. I want espresso. Get it in me as quickly as you can.
All about that instant gratification. That
Oh, but I love
caffeine.
it. I've been steaming my milk. Oh, it's so lovely. And then I usually walk a dog. Travis and I typically have different chores every week. So right now we're focusing on the laundry. Uh, it's nowhere near as exciting as what's been going on at your place. I ride my bike, and I ride my bike on the path, and then I usually walk a dog, and then sometimes I visit a friend on Zoom. But oh, there's been massive puppy parties in my backyard.
Oh,
Huge puppy parties. All kinds of different dogs every day. I've been going out on my porch and meeting them, and they love me and I love them. They get to go home, but then we get to hang out in the backyard. And just all, and I met a 8-week-old Rottweiler the other day.
oh.
Oh my God, little baby bear. And then a big fluffy Samoyed. That's been my highlight. And then a couple of rescue pups, and it's fun to socialize with the dogs.
No, it is. I miss my dogs that I used to walk. I'm
Yeah.
missing them. We also have the elk are back here in my neighborhood.
Cool.
There've been all kinds of sightings. We went on a bike ride to try to find them this morning or this afternoon because they were spotted this morning, just like right across from the elementary school. But by the time we got over there, we didn't see them anymore. But they're here like every day now. And I think it's the same 3 elk that come this time every year. They like it here, I guess. I have been listening to a new podcast.
What?
Unlocking Us by Brene Brown. Have you listened to it yet or heard about it?
No.
It's so good, Corey. It is so good. I listened to one and it's all about talking about comparative suffering. And I was just like, oh, this is so what we need to hear right now, because she's obviously in, quarantine too, and just talking about getting caught up in that thing that we can do as women or as people, I guess, that, feeling like, guilty for being sad about something almost, and it's like, well, but I don't have it as bad as this person, which is a great way to look at it sometimes, but sometimes it's also like, no, it's okay to acknowledge that you're sad or that you feel bad, like to let yourself, do that, and how to, like, it should all be met with love. Like there shouldn't be any judgment on your pain versus somebody else's pain or whatever. I just listened to one earlier. I was like, it was like an hour that I was like painting. I was listening to this podcast and I'm like, what have I been doing? Like, I just totally zoned out on it. But there was one I listened to and she had, oh my gosh, what's her name? Gillian Doyle on there with Untamed, her new book. And so that was really cool to listen to. Yeah, it's a really good podcast. And I think partly I love her because, she's from Texas, she's from Austin. And so just listening to her accent and like some of the things she talks about from her past and growing up, I can just relate to that so much. And she makes me feel at home a little bit, but she's so good.
I started Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, you're just now watching it?
Yeah.
It's so fucked up.
Oh my God. I remember
so good. It's slow, but it's
the
good.
First season, it was just sex and sex. That's it. and no, I'm sorry, sex and torture.
Yeah.
Horrible torture. And I was like, I think it was at the end of season 1, and I thought, why has everyone been raving about this? I don't understand.
I like it. I think it's just like taking something to the extreme, but you're like, it's like, holy, well, in this world we're living in now that we're in this pandemic, I'm like, well, fuck, anything could happen, right? I don't know.
Well, I like season 2 now. It's moving along and there's less sex and torture. It's actually moving along. But my brother said it was the best show that he's ever seen in his entire life. And I thought, what the heck? How is this the best show? But I couldn't. I had to take a couple of days break because I said, Travis, I cannot. There's this torture stuff. It's too much. I
Pretty
can't.
heavy.
And so I've been fast forwarding through things that I just can't, because I'm learning that stuff's giving me nightmares, and I can't. I'm too old for that now.
Oh no. Have you had any COVID nightmares? Danny said he
No,
had one the other night.
no COVID nightmares. I've had not my nightmares, but dreams about being back in college and being back in high school, and like strange dreams like that, and like driving to high school, pulling into the parking lot, and like my parking spot was always way in the back, and like thinking like, okay, I got to get my class schedule like in my dream, like where am I going? Say, and like same like college dreams and high school dreams. I don't know what that's all about, but no COVID dreams. I really haven't had any nightmares. When it first started, I did. I had one. I can't remember it though, but I don't know. I seem to be all right with it.
Yeah.
I seem to be doing okay. But
I watched a Jane Fonda documentary last night on HBO. It's one HBO has like put some of their stuff on Amazon for free for right now, and so it was one of the things on there, and it was really good. I'm like, oh man, she's lived.
yeah,
She's still living, and I'm like, damn. And then you look at her and you're like, she's like almost 80.
I know.
Damn.
My
Like,
mom used to do her workouts every Saturday morning on tape, on VHS, lift with the like leotard on and like Jane
I
Fonda.
think in that documentary, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that she said like it is still to this day the number one selling.
I believe it.
I'm like, oh my God. And it was all, she did it all because they wanted to raise money for this activist foundation that they were working on, because she's a huge activist. And so that's the reason why she did it. And then it blew up into this huge thing. And she was like married to this really highly intellectual writer at the time. And he was writing novels and this and that. And then she wrote a workout book, and it stayed on the New York Times #1 for 2 years. And like how like that affected their marriage, of like,
Yeah.
I'm like, crazy.
Would it be crazy to say that now that I've accepted this way of living and I've settled in to being uncomfortable, but I'm not uncomfortable anymore, that I'm going to be sad when this is, I kind of like this. Besides, yes, I have debt to pay. Besides that, I kind of like everything that's been going on. Random
Right.
talk. But like, I don't mind it.
I like the slow downness of life in general.
Yeah.
And I love seeing all the animals across the world, like, and like what the earth has come, like seeing the, canals in Venice looking clear, and seeing penguins walking in the middle of the street, and like all of this stuff. I love that so much.
You think that we could continue with this slow way of living?
I wish that we could. And what I'm going to be cautiously optimistic and hope that things will change. But my fear is, and my thought is that maybe it will for a little while, but then slowly but surely everybody will just creep naturally back into what they were already
You think
doing.
personally, even like, well, we'll try our best, and then it will.
I think I think it would just be one of those things that we would have to like just consciously think about and like be aware of. And I think that it would just become a little bit of work. And so it's like, can you keep that work? Like, are you disciplined enough to keep that work of being slow? Like, does that even make sense?
I know, right? I'm going to try my hardest. But we already got 2 clients who just instilled walks. So things are picking back up again, and immediately my hamster brain, started going, and I was like, "Whoa, slow down, Marta!
Hi, how's
So
it
glad
going?
you're here.
I made it.
Thanks for joining us today."
Yes, thank you for
How
having
are
me.
you?
I'm excited. I'm good, hanging in there. Good days, bad days, and
Sure.
in between.
We were just talking about, I think that's one of the biggest things for everybody is this whole unknown thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think we talked about that last time. I was telling Corey, I'm like, once we know, like, with even the first stay at home orders, like, okay, like we know what our next month looks like, right? We
Yeah.
know this plan, and this open-endedness of who knows
Yeah.
what is I think one of the hardest things.
It is. It really is.
And so, Marta, you're a triplet mom.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
How old are boys,
There are
girls?
4. 2 boys and 1 girl.
Oh
Oh.
It's interesting. Pretty intense. Their personalities are just flourishing, which is good, and challenging, very different. It's definitely harder than it was. And that's another reason too, like why this is challenging, because when I had to stay at home with them, it was more like, all right, let's get the routine done and over with. Because there wasn't that much of an interaction because they were really, really small. And then once they start with their antics, it's like, it's so cool, but it's exhausting too. So that's why I needed that space and I needed that break. And then to go back into it, it's funny because I met not too long ago this one mom that has 7 kids, and she had homeschooled them for like 20 years essentially. And just this year she decided, I will put everybody in school and I will have my me time. And it was like 6 months pretty much. I don't know if she started in the fall, I forget, but I'm like commiserating with her. Like, I understand, not fully because she homeschooled and she has 7 kids, but it's like you earned your freedom, and then it's like back to just being torn apart in different directions because everybody needs you. And there's a moment where you just want to be, and you don't want anybody asking anything of you, and you don't want to be touched. And
It's real. Like I get it, and I hear you, and I love seeing your social media.
oh,
And
thank you.
I love seeing you singing and like having a good, and just as you're speaking, I'm like, this is the empowered woman of the Empowered Woman podcast.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is you, How did that get started? When did you start that podcast?
So I started the podcast actually almost 2 years ago, and I had the name Mom Does It All. So that's the official original name of my business. Because I started with network marketing, and then I realized I needed to go on my own, and it was a great stepping stone, but I felt like I needed to, go out of that and have my own stuff. And it was more geared towards moms because it was the space, that I was living in postpartum, especially. And then I started realizing that lots of the women that wanted to hear this were not necessarily moms yet. And I didn't want to exclude anybody, and especially because my message was, you can do more than just be a mom, and you are more than just be a mom. By saying that I only serve moms, I was creating, it was kind of like an oxymoron to what I was doing. So I decided, it was in January that I rebranded, and I started saying Empowered Woman. So it's for any woman, and really to help them understand that they're woman. They're not just the mom or the wife or the professional or all of that. And because I realized that encouraging women to find their passion and to go after it really is what it means to be empowered, is taking responsibility for your happiness, right? And everything that I do is me, it's me kind of coming out of the prison at first from my family in Brazil, because it's, Latin families are very tightly knit, and it was a huge risk and a leap of faith for me to just up and leave and marry my husband 10 years ago. It was hard on my family. My parents cried. They thought I was disowning them, and I had to, cry and tell them, it's not that I'm ungrateful. It's just what I have to do. I feel it in my heart. I have to go, And so that was the stepping stone to begin with. And then with the whole having kids too, because we actually had the kids in Brazil, and then we moved back to the US. And then it was just different because I'd lived here before, but now I have 3 kids and I was just stuck at home and I had never done this mom thing before. And so it just started because I needed something for myself. And so this whole thing has been for me. It has helped me because as I talk about the stuff that I'm going through, it helps me process. And then women listen to it and they're like, oh, but I feel that too. You put it so beautifully. I would have never put it like that. As I'm building this, I'm growing and I'm learning more about myself than I ever could because I'm challenging myself to move past these fears. And
well, and I think part of our job too is, you can't, what are you teaching your children when your life revolves around them? You're teaching them your life should revolve around someone else, right? You're not giving them this model of how to be a whole functioning and individual person, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that's something that's even hard for my husband to understand because he says everything that I do is for the family. Like I don't have friends, I don't have a hobby, and you have all these things. And it's like, well, you need to go find friends. You need to go, you know what I mean? Like and then he's always hurt because he works so hard and then he's home and he's in pain and he's miserable. And I say, well, you're doing all these things for us, but you're not taking care of yourself. And then you're sitting home complaining. That doesn't help us. That doesn't make for a good experience with all of us together. And this is what I'm trying to do by doing my workouts, by taking care of myself so that when I'm there to the best of my ability.
Yeah. And that's all we're doing, right? At any time of the day, we're only just doing the best we can with what we got right now.
Yeah.
And when you can accept that and just be okay with that, it makes a big difference. And
it does.
Gives that space for us to take care of ourselves. And I love what you're saying. Like, it is so true. And I was just talking to my fiance about it the past couple of days, that we have to take care of ourselves and put ourselves first and do whatever we need to do to heal and take care of this before we can show up and help and love other people, and love others, you know?
Because then you start expecting a lot from people too. That's another problem.
Yeah.
Because since you're doing everything for everybody, then you're waiting for your time when people are going to take care of you. And then when that never happens, relationships get strained, arguments, and you just feel miserable because you keep expecting something that will never come because it has to come from you.
The resentments crop up. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So you've done a lot of workshops.
Yeah.
And I think you're before the COVID, right? In person.
Yeah.
And then you're doing some now, or you're launching some maybe online?
So I did one early this month. I think it was like the 3rd of April. Because everything was canceled and I wasn't able to, because I had already scheduled some far out and I had to cancel everything. So it was just a virtual one with just me because I usually have other ladies as panelists, but I was like, it's going to be too complicated. I'll just do it with me. And then my focus has been driving people to my school. So in a way, the quarantine has helped me focus with that because I love doing the workshops. It was so fun, but I feel like I put a lot of time into it. Which was great, but for like the financial return, it was not that much because it's just once a month. You can't live off of that. Not that I am completely living off of my coaching anyways, but I needed to focus more on the long term, right? And the ongoing, because this is what I preach too. You don't just read a book and your life is fixed. You don't just listen to one episode of podcast and your life is fixed. You don't go to one workshop and your life is fixed. It's the day to day. And that's what I am doing with the school, is helping women with personal development ongoing, right? And so I was like, all right, so this is the opportunity, since everything is online, to just talk about my school and have people join my school. Because
what is the name of your school?
The Empowered Women's School.
Okay.
And so this is what I'm focusing on. I'm actually bringing in some other instructors to help me in there and drive more people and teach classes. So different topics of different fields and niches and stuff like that. And I'm increasing the price too. So that's kind of maybe what you were seeing, is I'm kind of doing like a drive, like join us before I increase the rates May 1st. And I'm really looking forward to like focusing a lot of time and content in there so that more people join and we really create this community. Because then once we're free, we can all get together in person and stuff.
Yeah. You mentioned you had some of the panelists and like you were gonna get a few more instructors onto the school. So who have you had on, and what are these other instructors look like?
Well, so for the panels, I usually try to find, because I was doing every month a different theme for the workshops, depending on like the holidays, around the holidays. So January was like setting New Year's resolutions. February was more to do with love, and just picking people that had to do with stuff like that. And then for the instructors, it's has been usually business owners that have something to offer. So it's like you can advertise yourself and gain some exposure out of this too. So I've had like a health and fitness person to kind of talk about finding your feminine, and she's like a yoga instructor, so she talked a lot about that kind of stuff. And then I have this empowerment coach. She is actually an author, and she has a history of like surviving domestic abuse, being a bodybuilder, like so many amazing things that she can share in that sense of like empowerment and strategies to help with that. I'm having next month, I just scheduled it today, this book coach. So it's this lady, I don't know if you know who she is, Amy Collette.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's going to be teaching a class on how to turn your story into a message. So even if you're not ready to write a book, so we're going to start with something smaller, into feeling comfortable in digging back into the past and sharing it, because this is a lot of what I do too, is encouraging these ladies to voice their opinions, because that's what we do in the workshops and then in the classes too, is that you're not just listening. You have to answer and say, this is what comes up for me. Oh, I went through this and this is how I handle it, and then encouraging the actual students too, which some of them are coaches and stuff too. But even if you're not a business owner or you're just a stay-at-home mom, whatever, you can not only participate in the classes, but I encourage them to actually teach a class. So if you want to do like teach on a topic that because you work with something as a career person, that's great. Or if you just want to tell your story of overcoming, like maybe you had something in your life that happened. People like hearing stories like this, to just say, hey, I had this surgery and I almost died. And then you talk about all the steps. Like, it blesses everybody to hear these kinds of things. And it's helpful for the person to share that with other women and hear that feedback. I love all that stuff because I learn, they learn. It goes all ways.
I love how all inclusive it is. It really, everybody can benefit through this. They can share anything with this.
Yeah.
I love this idea. It really, any woman.
Yeah. Well, because there's lots of different groups, not only in person, but then when you think online, that is like a mastermind for entrepreneurs. So you go and you talk about your business, but then you talk about your personal life too, and you talk about the struggles. And this is kind of like, instead of the focus being your business, it's you. So you can still talk about your business because that's a part of you, but it kind of goes deeper. So it's full on personal development, like, how are you feeling? What's going on? We all want to talk to someone about that. And we have some friends that you can't really go that deep because it's just not how the dynamics work. And how about having a huge group of women that want to hear that kind of stuff? It's almost like a AA meeting, but it's not.
And I think that's great. I really, what was I going to say about that? That was, you're networking, but you're making new friends.
Yes. So it's not just for the business.
Colorado Girl Gang, right? Love that group.
Yes.
And I see all the time, like, just moved here looking for new friends, or I've been here for 10 years looking for new friends.
Looking for new friends. Yeah. And it's hard.
It is.
As women.
But right off the bat, especially with that group, you girls were wonderful. Everyone's been so welcoming. And then when I found you, you just shined. When I found you, Marta, I was like, oh, we need to know her. We definitely need to know her. And you do. You have a presence in this world that's something else. And I'm glad that you're spreading this around and doing what you're doing, because it is empowering and it isn't exciting, and there's comfort in it too. It's just nice to be reminded we're not alone. You know, in quarantine or out of quarantine.
Yes, definitely.
And I just think this is great. I know you've worked real hard on all of this, and it's just really great. So
thank you. I really appreciate
that. How did you meet your husband? So did you guys meet in Brazil?
Yeah, no, we met in Tulsa, Oklahoma, actually, because that's where I was going to church. So my mom's a pastor, and she actually started Catholic, and then she met this American pastor, and then she started going to all of his stuff. And then eventually she kind of became close with the whole ministry. They started going to her church. And then she started coming to the conferences here. in the US. And then it came to a point where I was the one that was interpreting. So that's how my career with languages started too, was because of church. And that's why it's all I knew. Like it was very, very much attached to my identity, you know? And then I met him. He was living at the time. He's from Nebraska, and he was living in Oklahoma at the time because he was attending that church and living with his dad. His parents are divorced. And then that's how we met. But then he went to Brazil a few times to visit because my mom really liked him because he was kind of like driving us around because we were friends, you know. And then she was like, oh, I will use some frequent flyer miles and he can come to Brazil to visit. And so he came a couple times, and it was kind of like we were talking, but we weren't officially dating because it was churchy, and it's like, you're not going to date. How is that going to work? It's long distance, you know, until we had some ups and downs of we're either going to do this or we're not going to do this. And eventually I had to kind of make the decision of I'm going to go visit him because I knew we were going to get engaged. And that was when the world collapsed. My mom locked my closet and she was like, you're not going to go. There was no way. And my dad actually helped me. It was funny. He helped me unlock the closet and get my suitcase, and he drove me to the airport.
That's awesome.
Because it was kind of like, because he had not been always on board with my mom's church stuff too. So that's why I kind of understand her more now, because she wanted to do her own thing and be her own person. She felt this calling, and my dad didn't really agree with it. So anyways, he helped me, and I came to the US, to Colorado for the first time, and I saw snow for the first time. And it was in February around Valentine's Day of 2010. And then we got engaged in Glenwood Springs. He took me there. And then I came back and I was like, all right, I'm going to get married. And then my mom was over it and she was happy for me. And she was like, all right, well, you have to get married now. There's no other if you're going to leave, you know, because she couldn't just let her daughter go without getting married. So we came up with something in 3 months. And in May of that same year, I got married and I moved out here. So that's the story.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. And what was that like moving to, it's almost like, because you guys didn't live together before and you didn't really see each other a whole lot, it sounds like.
Mm-mm.
And then all of a sudden you're in this new country with your new husband and this totally new, like, what was that like for you?
It was, I don't even know. And that's something that I have to revisit more, because I've been revisiting so much my childhood because of being a mom now. But that's something that I need to go back into feeling those feelings and what was going on. Because he was very like worried, making sure that I had everything, because he knew where I came from. I had everything living with my parents. They're, you know, pretty well off. My dad has built this business he had built his business for like 30 years. So pretty successful. And then all of a sudden I think he was very, very worried. And a lot of that was kind of like, the beginning was kind of rough because he had the burden of being the provider. And I actually came in to study for my master's, because that was another kind of like a deal with my parents. It was like, if it doesn't work out, at least you get something out of it. So my mom paid for my master's program at CU Denver, which was great. I'm so glad that happened, because I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anybody. When he was working, what was I going to do? So I went to the gym. I walked the dog, because we got a dog to keep me company too, because he was like, you can't be by yourself in the house. And so we still have the dog. And he's 10 now. And my best friend. And then I had school, which was mostly online, but I did have to go to campus. And so it was just really like adjusting into doing the laundry and cooking, because I never even had to do that before, because we had maids and people to do it, you know? And so it was more of like an adjustment of, what am I going to make that he's going to like? I only know Brazilian food. He doesn't really care for all the dishes. So that was kind of like the hard stuff, but we really wanted to be together, and we just figured out. And it really helped, I feel like, comparing to other Brazilians, because I do know several Brazilians living in the United States, some that come just to try a better life, and others that end up marrying Americans, marry military, and that speak close to nothing in English and struggle a lot. All they do is watch Brazilian TV. They only want to be like, it's like they're here, but they're not here. And thank God that was not me, because I think that would make it a lot harder for adjusting and surviving. I wanted the American culture a lot because this is what I'd studied for my entire life, you know, and whenever I would come to the conferences in Tulsa, I would get a little taste of what would it be like if I lived here, you know, but it was just for a week. And I remember my sister and my mom would go home and they're like, oh, I can't stand this Americans talking. I can't, I need to go back. And I'm like, but I like it. I want to stay, you know?
I can only imagine, especially like the, you know, Southern accent there. And
then you turn the TV on and it's like, that's all you hear, and the food. And they were like, I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore. And for me, it's like, I would love to live here, because that was one of the things with growing up. It was very common for Brazilians, especially being in a more, you know, wealthier part of town, in the school that I went to go in exchange programs. So lots of my friends did that. And even my best friend actually got her bachelor's degree with a tennis scholarship in UNF. Wow. And that was like my dream. I was like, I was the one who was supposed to do something like that. You know, I've been studying English and being obsessed with all things United States, and I don't get to go study and do the sorority, campus, dorm life. Like, this is what I was living for, you know, watching all the movies and doing all the things. And then, and a lot of my story, I think now as a mom too, goes back to me never having that time, because I went from being in my parents' house to being married to being a mom. I never had the crazy 20s, do whatever the fuck, you know, and just go drinking. Like, I never did any of those things. And I get to do those things now with my husband, which is cool because I don't have to go to bars and try to find somebody. I'm glad for that. Don't get me wrong. But it's still kind of hard to not have had the experience of being independent. And after becoming a mom, I kind of realized I can still do that. It's not over. And a lot of my business has been that, me realizing that even though I've checked the boxes of studying, getting jobs, getting married, having kids, it's not over. It's really just begun. I can do anything. And who cares that I'm 30? You know, there's people out there accomplishing a lot at 50. Go ahead.
I know I can tell you, you know, I'm a little bit ahead of you in the game for children, because I have mine are almost 12 and then the other one's 13. And I always tell people, especially, you know, with toddlers and younger children, and because I know how, like, it's a lot of work, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, it gets better. Okay. Like, it gets easier in some ways. Some things change and get a little more difficult in other ways, because then all of a sudden you're dealing with like real problems, you know, like real life, you know, emotional type problems. But you know, they become so much more independent. And then you also get to see them have their own personalities and their own worlds. Mm-hmm. Like, one time I remember before COVID, and we were at my son's middle school, and it was like after this presentation thing, and we got to watch him with all of his peers. Like, we were kind of just sitting back, and it was like, oh my gosh, he has a whole other life outside of us. And to like see them interact in that kind of way is such a great thing. And it gets better. And you get every step. I remember going through that. It's like, oh yes, you know, that the last one's potty trained, or the last one can feed himself, or yes, they can take a bath by themselves. Like, you slowly, they get more independent and you get your, you know, more independence back. You know? It gets it gets easier.
That's definitely good to know. And it's also scary, you know, to think about, like, going back to what we're saying about, you know, what is life going to look like once we can venture out again. I feel like that's a constant struggle for moms, and especially for me having 3 the same age, because it's all at the same time. So it's hard. And it's also like, you don't get a do-over once you have the second child. And it's like, all right, I know how this goes. Let's see what I can try this time. Like, it's all at the same time. And it's very, very crazy. And at most times you just want to get it over with. And then you think, did I really enjoy this? You know, did I really take the time to appreciate everything that they're going through? Because it's not going to be forever. And that's, again, another reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I don't want to live my days worrying or regretting that I didn't do enough. Because I noticed looking at baby pictures and saying, you know, I should have taken more pictures of me breastfeeding. I should have, you know, like enjoyed that time more. And then I started noticing that I will do what I will do whenever that the time is happening. I can't look back and say, oh, they're not the babies anymore. I wish I could go back in time and have that snuggle again. And it's like, no, I don't. Really, I don't, because that time was great in many ways, challenging in many ways, but now we're at a different time. And I feel like a lot of the angst that was created in me had to do with other people saying enjoy it because it goes by so fast, as if then you're going to live your life in regret because it went by so fast. And I don't want to live like that. You know, I want to be as much present as I can, but I also don't want to beat myself up, because that's what moms do forever. It's just beating yourselves up because it's your fault that they turned out like this, or it's your fault that they have this, and that. And now being a mom and seeing my mom and all the resentment that I had for her growing up, getting married, and now having kids, like I have developed a new respect for my mom, even though she didn't have triplets, because it's like, this isn't easy. And I don't even know what she was going through at that time. And one of the things that I have been sharing a lot lately, because I have gone there to understand and to become aware of it, was that I don't know how many times I heard my mom telling me the story that after she had my sister, because I'm the youngest, 4 years younger, she didn't want any more kids. She said it was so hard. I struggled a lot. And I didn't want any more kids. I was convinced. And she struggled to even have my sister. So I don't think she was expecting to get pregnant again anyways. And then she got pregnant. And then she said, but God told me that you were going to be a blessing. And you really have been, because our financial situation changed. Like everything changed and it was great. But now I know that I've carried that with me because I heard it so many times, into thinking that I wasn't wanted and that I wasn't enough and that I needed to prove myself. So a lot of growing up was, how can I outshine my sister? Which I already did to begin with, because I'm so loud and she's very introverted, but she has her own talents. Like she's very artistic, she's very organized, but she's the quiet one. So I was going to outshine her in many ways to begin with, but I feel like that story made me want to just be over the top more than normal, which has helped me accomplish lots of things in life. Don't get me wrong. I think that was good. But especially now with what I have going on with kids and stuff, it made me seek for that approval. You know, it made me think that I wasn't enough. And with all the work that I have been doing, it's really helping me see that none of those things define me. None of those things make me better or worse. I am who I am, and that's that. And now seeing that my mom didn't tell me that story to make me feel bad. In fact, she kept telling it not only to justify it to herself, because she probably felt bad for not wanting another child, you know? Oh, it's so confusing. But also because she was like, no, you really were a blessing. You're amazing. You know, she was telling me that to make me feel great. And I never thought that it felt bad until it started coming up for me, and me thinking, wow, I really was kind of like competing with my sister for attention. And then to think that's what my kids do every single day, because they're the same age. So they're constantly competing for my attention that I can't give because I'm only one, you know? And that's where all of what I do has come from. It really has come from me developing this forgiveness and gratitude for my mom, and wanting to impart that to my kids so that they will do the same eventually.
And what are you doing? Have you found anything right now during this time, this quarantine time, and we're all kind of, you know, stuck in our houses with each other for the most part? What are you doing right now for yourself?
So that's a hard one. But I have been spending the mornings. That's been like dedicated to doing my stuff, because my husband's staying at home, so he's not working, and he's been working with the kids and like school stuff and homeschooling and activities. He's just like, he handles them in the morning until 11 a.m., which has been great. And I was originally using all that time to just be on the computer and doing as much as I could. And then I realized I have to use this time for myself more too. And recently I went on a walk, and I've been doing my workouts at that time too, to really kind of like, that's my me time, which is what I always talk about, that we need. And it's really hard to do being locked down in the house. But since I have the blessing and the opportunity of not having to do anything for them, like if they come by, he's like, no, can't go there, mommy's working. And it's like such a blessing. So I've been trying my best to really dedicate that time, not only to business stuff that I have to do, but for myself. And also always, and especially with this quarantine, I'm always being challenged to practice what I preach, because I get so excited in sharing everything and seeing the women get this value out of stuff that it's very easy for me to just get so consumed and be like, oh, but I need to create this one more thing. And I need to send this other email. Oh, I need to share this other thing. And it's like, it's part of it, which is great. And I kind of use it as a justification, but I have to, because people are benefiting from it, And then I realized that it's taking away from my energy, from my time for myself. So going back to what you were saying, once quarantine ends or whatever is going to happen, is we hope that we can keep the slowing down mode. And I completely agree with that, even though I don't know what my life is going to be like. I think that this time has been very helpful for me to cut off the distractions that I had added on, just because it's hard for me to set boundaries and to just say, no, I'm not going to work anymore right now, because it doesn't feel like work, because it's so fun, because I need that time to slow down. So I talk a lot.
Wonderful. And Marta, if people want to find out more about you, learn about your workshops, where can they find you?
So you can find me at martaspirk.com, or just anywhere on social media, Marta Spirk, and The Empowered Woman. So I have the Empowered Woman community on Facebook. So it's a free group that any woman can join to learn more and see what I'm all about. And also then you have the Empowered Woman School, where you can find all of that on my website, and then the Empowered Woman podcast too.
All right. It's very nice to meet you, Marta. And hopefully, when this is all over, we're hoping to be able to meet you for real.
Yes. Oh yeah. We definitely need to get something scheduled, and hopefully we can record something in person for my podcast. Maybe.
Yes. We'd love
That'd be fun.